I want you to step back and begin to consider a new possibility so that you understand how quantum embodiment can help you be well. And not just well at the level that you've been living, but to reach a more outstanding level of health and being. And it's summed up in this understanding. Painful physical and emotional symptoms are the direct result of repressed feelings and thoughts in the unconscious mind-body. Energy waves condense and become particles, causing inflammation and constriction to block circulation. Now, to begin to believe and understand what I'm saying, you have to be able to look in your own mind of what the effects are when you lose your peace, when you get angry, when you're upset, when you're thinking in your mind about possibilities that could be dangerous, threatening. Because anything you believe, real or imagined, that is a threat to your survival, has the ability to be able to trigger inside your unconscious mind and connect you to past moments when you really were threatened, when your survival was being thwarted, when all of a sudden there was a real and present danger that's still in your unconscious mind. Now remember, the unconscious mind is your body. Every cell has complete memories of the entire existence that it has gone through since the moment of your conception. When we begin to look at things differently, then we ask different questions. First, we want to understand something that's very basic. Did you know the body has 3 brains? That's right. A brain are neuron connections. They connect with this electricity moving through the synaptic endings. And very simply, they're like the processes in a computer that have mass amounts of information moving through it through electrical currents that then be able to direct through your nervous system what your body does. Now, interesting, the brain is then connected to what we call the mind. The mind is not the brain. The brain is the physical element. The mind is a much more subtle element, and we have different levels. We're familiar with our conscious minds, what is known as our subconscious minds, and our unconscious minds. And it gears in with each of the 3 brains. The one brain we're most familiar with is the one inside of our head. And there are billions of connections there, the neurons that are able to interact with each other. But our other brain is our heart, and it has its own neural connections. And its neural network is able to function without any help from the brain. Believe it or not, when a person has a heart implant, they cut the actual connections to the head's brain, and it's able to function by itself. Why? Because the heart brain actually develops earlier than the head brain. And the heart brain creates an electronic field that can be measured up to 100 feet outwardly and can entrain other people and other parts of your neurological and endocrine system to be able to go in accordance with what the heart is feeling. And then we have our enteric brain, and that's in our gut. And that's the brain of survival. So here where we have the brain of survival or intuition in our gut, the brain of love and relationships here in our heart, and the brain of reason and our intellect in our head. And they need to be aligned. When they're not aligned, they're out of balance and cause problems. Because if you're in conflict, what you're doing is not reasonable, but you feel compelled to do it, or you're doing something from your heart that you know is unreasonable, then all of a sudden you're split within yourself and you cause yourself the potentiality of illness. As a man thinketh in his heart, head and gut, so is he. Now, this is a little deviation on the normal saying from the biblical quote in Proverbs, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Because I want you to understand that the heart, the gut, and the brain need to be aligned to have maximum health, because that's what we call coherence, alignment. And when you're out of alignment internally, it then reflects in all your actions. It reflects in all your decisions. And that is where you now begin to make poor lifestyle choices. And we begin now to understand what the quantum embodiment approach is. The goal of therapy is to provide yourself the means and confidence with which you can face, embrace, replace, and bring grace to whatever interference, obstacle, or problem which may arise tomorrow or next year. And the way we do that is by having a willingness to understand the basics of why we do what we do. What is the underlying mental construct and belief systems that we use to evaluate whatever is going on and then decide what to do? What were the strategies that we learned in the past, and to be able to really look at them again and say, hey, are they working for me? Do these produce the results I really want now, or am I stuck to carrying out these strategies because they're so deeply embedded within me that that very imprint causes me a state of unconsciousness that I react to life? That any time something comes up in order to do something better, healthier, more effective, I deny it because it doesn't agree with what I learned in the past and which I feel I need to hold on to. This is the deep therapeutic process for healing all of these separation instances from the past and the ignorances that were transposed on our consciousness from others. What we will discover when we do this is as follows: that our personal wall of fear erects barriers at each level of consciousness which needs to be looked upon. The walls that we have inside us is the resistance, the defense mechanisms that we've developed over time that don't allow us to understand our emotional reactions, our mental reactions, the decisions we make, and the strategies that we utilize, because we're stuck. We're afraid to do something different. Change becomes frightening, dangerous, because it's something new, uncomfortable. This is one of the problems with every belief that you've set up in your mind. A belief by its nature creates a sense of certainty, an evaluation of something that you once decide upon and never question again, unless something changes or enough pain happens that you bring it into question and wonder, is this the best way? Is there another way? And therefore, our approach is to be able to use your attention and look within and discover what is happening inside. The most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves is to remain ignorant by not having the courage and respect to look at ourselves honestly. Self-awareness is the essence of self-realization and emotional wellness. Utilizing our quantum embodiment approach is to pause and listen to the body. Not with the intent to get rid of the symptom, but to understand the message the symptom is sharing. What is this ache coming from? When did it start? What is it involved in? With whom is it involved in? These are questions that if we ask them, we open ourselves up, because the form of the body is not something that is completely ignorant. It's completely intelligent. It's creative intelligence itself, every second shape-shifting to move with a system simultaneously 50 to 100 trillion cells moving together instantly to resolve, to be able to create a homeostasis inside, to deal with any potential threats, internal or external. It is this amazing system of consciousness, of intelligence. And only through first acknowledging whatever I'm feeling in my body is part of my consciousness, my unconsciousness, my subconsciousness, however you want to say it, and I need to pause and look deep inside. And when we begin this process, there's an interesting perspective. It's not so much about what you don't know, but what you know that just ain't so. We have beliefs and strategies, opinions and efforts that we make, and we don't question them. We do them because we think it's right, because we were told they were right by our parents, by our teachers, by society, and we don't really pause and sit back and ask ourselves, is it true? Is it always true? Was it something from the past that worked back then but it's not working now? Because if we don't bring this level of awareness to everything, we're never going to be able to undo and make the corrections necessary to say, wow, that doesn't work. It creates stress inside me. It creates stress in my relationships. It makes me feel out of balance, sick. Something has to be wrong with that. There must be another way. So this questioning process is vital. Dr. John Sarno, who is this brilliant professor from NYU, an incredible surgeon, he says it this way: awareness, insight, knowledge, and information were magic medicines for 80 to 90% in pain. He discovered that most of the back pains, most of the illnesses that individuals were having were not able to be traced to the biological and physical anatomy of what was actually happening in the body between the nervous system, the musculatures, the bones, and the entire balance of the system in general. What he discovered was, with understanding, with awareness, that 80 to 90% of all the illnesses that we were experiencing were in fact buried rage, anger, upsets, stressors, distresses from the present and from the past. And by using his system, he was able to prevent 80 to 90% of all of the unnecessary surgeries that were happening and see full recovery, so there was no longer the pain and suffering that had been experienced by many of these people for decades. One of the mottos of Quantum Embodiment is dare to look within. Are you willing? Are you willing to deny the medical model, to repudiate it, to say, if I can't find a direct result of the cause of my pain or symptom in something in the body, then I have to understand it may be a way for one of my three brains to distract me to utilize one of the most important strategies the ego has when working with the unconscious mind-body. It says, don't look within. Seek, but do not try to find the real answer inside you. Instead, look outside you to deal with the symptoms, cover up the symptoms, blame it on this, blame it on that, and not take responsibility that you are the original cause of your mental, emotional, or physical imbalance, dysfunction, pain, or suffering. Wow. This is one of the first steps that you have to overcome. To understand the power of your mind, how every thought creates a biological reaction, how you have the ability to access memories in the past that can make you feel horrible and upset and sick, or memories that can make you feel joyful and happy and free. Depends which you decide to think about. Because what you think about, you bring about. What you activate currently in your mind, it will activate the past and bring all of that up, which we will begin to see as we look at all of the different elements of healing through the quantum embodiment process. The path of emotional wellness is through stepping out beyond the box of our thinking and feelings. We can access the extraordinary realms of existence and consciousness and experience heretofore unknown dimensions of our true nature. Stepping out of the box of our thinking is being willing to look at something from another perspective, to deny that we really know what's happening, to question all of the beliefs that we've built up from the information that we've received from doctors, from professionals, because most of it is prejudiced. A good example is I went to WebMD and they were giving an explanation of using drugs for individuals with ADHD. And they made this startling remark that 70 to 80% of the people taking it find benefit. Yet, the actual studies that were done, the research study, particularly what is known as the MTA study, found that not only did 70 to 80% not find benefit, 100% actually got worse the longer they were on the medications. They never shared any of that. They never shared the fact that over 40% of the people taking these drugs get negative side effects, which include insomnia, stunting of growth, anxiety, depression, and suicide. Didn't say a thing about it. But here on WebMD, they're promoting the idea of using these drugs. And interesting, on what is supposed to be an unbiased source of knowledge, right underneath their very little slideshow telling you about the information that I just mentioned, underneath it was an advertisement that they were being paid for to take ADHD drugs. Click on this and go to our site to get a free prescription of our ADHD drug. That's not unbiased. Understand there are many different areas you can go for this research and knowledge, but you have to be willing to look for another way and find what works for you.